Should Didier Deschamps bench Kylian Mbappe for France in their semi-final and final game in the Euros? That is not a question I thought we would be asking ourselves, and maybe the answer is no, but the argument is better than you think. So we're going to talk about that next here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. Now, this is not clickbait, and I'm not trying to be contrarian, and I have to say, if I was managing France, I don't know that I could pull the trigger on this. But if there's any manager that could get away with it, it's somebody like Didier Deschamps with his track record and his longevity at France. If there's a manager in the world who could bench a player like Kylian Mbappe at this point in a tournament, he's the guy that could do it. And I don't know that he should, but I think he should be thinking about it, and there are some really good arguments as to why. So we're going to talk about that today here on the channel. But before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow this and all the videos that we put out. Go ahead and get down in that comment section. What would you do? Would you bench Kylian Mbappe? Wait till you hear the arguments as to why before you decide. You can also leave some comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub, and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. So France skated by again against Portugal. 5 games into this tournament, they still don't have a goal from open play. That is the real statement I didn't think we'd be saying. And certainly if we were, I didn't think they'd still be alive. And yet here we are as they head into the down the home stretch of this tournament, and yet they can't score. They can't score without an own goal or a penalty or a set play or something outside of open play. And one of the reasons has been Kylian Mbappe, who has not been at his best in this tournament. Now, I'm not knocking Mbappe. The Mbappe lovers do not need to come after me. I believe that he is one of the best players in the world. He is on that short list. But he is not himself right now. Ever since he broke his nose, he has not been himself. He looks like he is struggling to breathe. He looks like he's struggling to see a little bit. He does not have the same feel, the same tenacity, the same aggressiveness. He's just not as elite right now with that mask on. And if you know anything about nose injuries, it's understandable. It's, you know, we want to discount injuries to body parts that don't involve kicking the ball or running or something we think is relevant to football, but breathing is pretty relevant. And when your nose breaks, it is incredibly hard to breathe for months. I mean, this could actually impact the start of his time at Real Madrid, given that there's not that much time between now and then. These, you know, he had the surgery, but these nose injuries linger, and it's tough to breathe. It's tough to get the air into the lungs. All the things you need to do to be a world-class athlete and be a footballer and run up and down the pitch and cover 10 to 15 kilometers a day. It makes it really tough to do it. And you saw Didier Deschamps take him out of the game in a key spot, in a nothing game in stoppage time, knowing penalties were coming, simply because he just either Mbappe told him he couldn't go, or he didn't think he could go on, or whatever the case was. He had his reasons for doing it, and frankly, they looked pretty justified on the pitch. And so it does beg the question, it begs a couple questions. One, is Kylian Mbappe even their best option at striker right now on such a deep French team? Probably still yes, but that is a fair question at this point. And if he can't go a full 90 or a full 120, as a lot of these games have been going, would they be better off bringing him in as a sub down the stretch? Again, I'm not saying he shouldn't play at all, but I'm questioning whether you should start him. Look at what happened in this game against Portugal. He ran out of steam and they had to take him out. I guarantee they would have loved to have had him in there during penalty kicks, and they got away with it, but they got away with it with some inexperienced players taking those kicks. That doesn't mean it's what Didier Deschamps wanted to do, but he felt he had to take Mbappe off. Would they not have been better off having him start on the bench and bringing him in around the 60th minute, maybe to get that late goal in regulation, because he's got fresh legs and he's going up against tired defenders, and then if not, he's got the stamina to work his way all through stoppage time, and he's around for penalties. And this is a theory that can be thrown out there for anybody who's not really equipped to play a full game, or something Portugal should probably have been doing with Cristiano Ronaldo. But in this case, with the way this tournament is going, with so many low-scoring games, and then couple it with the way France is playing even more low-scoring games, and they're simply not scoring that many goals, even with him on the pitch, and their style of play is not really even, it hasn't been that attacking minded, and so there's a good chance they play a couple more of these really tight, low-scoring games. 0-0, 1-1, deep into regulation, into stoppage time. Penalty kicks are a serious probability. This is not some fluky thing that's happening. There's a really good chance they end up in PKs again. And so to have to take Mbappe off for those key stretches really is not ideal. And so if you think there's a strong possibility of being in that situation again, and you really strongly believe that he's not going to play 120 minutes, then you really have to think about doing this, particularly with the depth they have at striker. And I'm not saying you wait until the 88th minute. You could plan, almost make a planned substitution to bring Mbappe on in the 60th minute. That way you've got minimum 30 minutes plus stoppage time, and then you've got plenty of legs underneath of him to make an impact in stoppage time, and then he's around for PKs. So, again, this is a big move, and I'm not trying to stir the pot here. I'm not just trying to get clicks. I'm not saying Didier Deschamps should definitely do this. But I think he's got to consider it. I'd be considering it. And there's very few managers that could get away with it. Look at what Portugal was doing there. It clearly would be better off without Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch, and yet they just, no one has the guts to say it and make the move. If there's a manager who can do this, it is Didier Deschamps. His track record, his longevity in France, his status within that program, within that country, within that team. Even Mbappe, if you pulled him aside and told him what the plan was, he'd probably be willing to go along with it at this point. So if there's a manager who could get away with doing it, it is Didier Deschamps. I don't know if he will. Maybe it depends on the matchup in the next two games, but I think it's really something that he's got to consider, because if they go to 120 minutes against Spain, it doesn't look like they'll have Kylian Mbappe at the end of that game if they don't change something up. And that could really come back to bite them. They got away with it against Portugal. We don't know that they're going to continue to all the way through the final. So, big move. It would be headline-making move, but it is something I think even Kylian Mbappe can be replaced when your team is that deep and he has taken a step back because of his struggles with the nose. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I have not seen any reports that this might happen, but I gotta think it's something Didier Deschamps is thinking about, if not silently, then at least a little bit with his coaching staff in the back room or something. But I'll bet it's been mentioned. What do you think? Would you do it? Would you bench Kylian Mbappe, bring him off the bench late in the game, make him a super sub for the last couple games? Would you have the guts to do it? Do you think Didier Deschamps will? Do you think he should? Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think about this and all the topics from the Euros. It's been a good tournament so far. Leave some comments for me. You can also leave some comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub. While you're at it, make sure you hit the subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.